ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday morning session. We shall continue on our journey of Mundaka Upanishad. Today we will start the third Mundak, part 1. And this is very famous Mundak actually. This Mundak also gives the slogan or the national emblem which we have, Satyamev Jayate. But apart from that, there are many useful things which we can learn from this Mundak. Now let us briefly recall that we started with the question by Sonak Muni, who asked that by knowing one single thing, the whole universe is known. What is that thing? That is what he asked Rishi Angira. And then Rishi Angira continued and he came to what we call Parā Vidyā and Aparā Vidyā, and then finally he said Aparā Vidyā is basically asthir, it is unstable. It will not lead you to the supreme. And then he talks about Parā Vidyā, and finally he tells that the supreme is in our heart. He is like an axis in the heart to which everything else is connected. Like our eyes are connected, our ears are connected, our hands, every part of the body is connected to that. And the entire Chaitanya, entire consciousness circulates from that axis. So we are able to see because of that Chaitanya, we are able to hear because of that consciousness, we are able to hear because of that supreme sitting in our heart. So that is what he said finally, that it is like Rath ki Nabhi, which is connected to all the spokes, and that's how the Rath moves. Similarly, it is the axis of the body in the Anahat Chakra. Anahat Chakra is, right here where the two lungs, part from each other at that corner. That is the center of what you call Anahat Chakra, and that is where all this consciousness resides. And this is the center of connecting the entire, every particle of the body. Now, a few more things before we enter into Mundak 3. Now, what was said is that the supreme consciousness is residing in us, and therefore we are supreme. That is what finally it was said, that whole universe is pervaded by him, and in our heart lives the consciousness. Now you will find there's a little bit of contradiction in the first two verses of Mundak 3 compared to what was said earlier. So, but we'll examine that when we come to that. So let's start with the first part of Mundak 3. And Sayuja. Sayuja means those which are living together. Sakhaya. Sakhaya, Sakha. Sakha, we know that they are all well connected. They live together. They understand each other very well. They, they are emotionally connected. Dwa. So Dwa Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya. That is the first line of this, mantra. Dwa Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Samanam Braksham Pariswajate. Basically, it says that there are two birds which are sitting on the same tree. Same tree, they are sitting. And they are living together constantly. And they live like Sakha. They are emotionally connected. They understand each other very well. Tayoranya Pillam Swadatte. That means Pillam means us vraks. Vraks ke jo bhi phal hai, the good or bad or bitter or sweet, whatever the outcome is, they are tasting that, they are eating that. Not they, one of them is eating that and tasting it. And the second one is abhichakshiti, simply sitting and observing. Now, there are two birds sitting on the tree of our body. Our body has been given the, the simile of a tree, that this is the tree, and there are two birds sitting in it. One is tasting of the fruits, and one is only observing. Now, in the previous section, we saw that the Aham Brahmasmi, that I am the Supreme, and therefore the Supreme resides in me. But here the Mundak talks about two separate birds, which are very well connected, which are emotionally one, Suparna, they live together constantly, all the time. But one of them is tasting the fruits and one is only observing. Now, what does it mean? That the Jivatma, which is actually integrated in our body system. The body system will not function without the integration of Jivatma. That consciousness circulates through that Jivatma into every single particle of the body. We know Vyan Pran. Vyan Pran originates from that Anahat Chakra or heart. And from there are 101 nadis which come out. Out of 101, 100 nadis are further divided into 100 each. That makes 10,000. And those 10,000 are further divided into 72,000 each. So you can see the number. It's 72 million nadis are circulating in our body and reaching that consciousness in every single particle. So that is the division of consciousness into the body. It is integrated in every single part. For example, if I don't feel consciousness here or Chaitanya here, it becomes numb. So we see some people, when during accident or because of some illness or something else, some of their body parts become numb. That happens because the consciousness is not circulating there through the Vyan Pran system. So this integration in the body of that consciousness is the reason why this particular consciousness called Jivatma is experiencing the pain and pleasure of life. Pain and pleasure of life is experienced by that Jivatma. It is not doing anything. It is just present. But still, it has to pass through that pain and pleasure. If somebody comes and hits me, I get pain in the body. I feel that pain because of the consciousness. The consciousness is integrated in my body, and that is why I feel that pain. If a person is dead, whose consciousness has passed away, if you hit him, it doesn't matter. We burn the dead body, nothing happens. Because that consciousness is not there. So that consciousness is the part and particle, actually, I would say inseparable part of a living being. And because of that inseparation, we feel the pain and pleasure of life. Whatever bitter or sweet fruit which comes, that consciousness is experiencing it. So this is what this mantra says, that there's one part of that consciousness which is constantly experiencing this pain and pleasure through which we pass. And that is inseparable. It is not possible to avoid it. But there is another part of the consciousness which is linked to that, which is all the time connected to the same consciousness. That is only observing. It is not experiencing the good and bad, pain and pleasure, sweet and bitter, whatever experience we have, it is not passing through that. Now, it is only an observer. Now, sometimes we always say that the consciousness is doing nothing, it's only observing. There is difference here. This mantra is telling an eternal truth of our experience of our life, that when we pass through pain and pleasure, that consciousness also passes through that. It is not completely separate. But at the same time, there is a second variety of consciousness which is also present there, which is not experiencing all this. Now let me give you an example to explain this. We have this vast space, infinite space. Now in that space, you construct a small house for yourself. Now that house is connected to the space outside. Outside is an absolutely free space, totally. Birds are flying, trees are coming up, planes are flying, sounds are going up and down. All the things are happening in that space. Stars are moving, sunlight is coming. But when you construct that house in a small space, that is also the space. There can be no house without a space. House basically means a space. The only thing is that you have constructed 4 walls around it. So we were explaining that there is one part of the consciousness which is passing through pain and pleasure, another is only observing. And let us take the example of space. Now, space is vast, infinite, open area. And in that we can construct a small house for ourselves. Now, there can be no house without a space, no office without a space. The walls are not, the office. It's the space which is the office. So the office or godown or house, whatever you construct, is part and particle of that big, vast space. But then it is enclosed by the 4 walls. Because of that enclosure, the happenings inside the house, they affect only the space inside. They are happening only within that space. The outside space is not impacted by that. Exactly the same way, the consciousness which is connected with our body system is experiencing the fruits of our karmas, but the consciousness which is just sitting and observing is not experiencing. Now that distinction is only to explain to us. It is not a real distinction. It is only to explain to us that even the consciousness which is part of Jivatma is ultimately experiencing the emotions, the pain and pleasure we are passing through, which is actually true. When you have in your mind some, painful feeling, obviously the consciousness attached to the mind is also experiencing that, while the consciousness outside is not experiencing it. So this is also called, some scholars have called it basically the embodied consciousness, the consciousness which is within the 4 walls of our body, which becomes embodied. And then we have, a bodiless consciousness, which is outside like the open space. So that distinction we should understand, that there is an embodied consciousness which is passing through this experience, but then there is a bodiless consciousness which is all around, which is not experiencing it. So that distinction we should know. This is very useful for us when we feel, oh, I'm feeling this, pain. And of course, the pain is you are feeling because the consciousness is, present in every single part of your body, and that is why you are experiencing that pain. So this is what this mantra says. Mantra number 1, Mundak 3, part 1. Then mantra number 2, samane vrakshe puruso nimidno. That's samane vrakshe. शरीर रूपी समान वृक्ष पर, मतलब on the same tree, on the same body, पुरुषे जीवात्मा, निमग्र, that is inundated in all the pains and pleasures. Then anisaya means it is, it is feeling without any capability. It is feeling asamarth. It is feeling what you call helpless. It is feeling helpless and helplessly passing through that pain and pleasure. This is what we all see every day in our life, that helplessly the consciousness which is embodied, which is part of our body structure, which is connected to all our organs, is helplessly passing through those pains and pleasures. It is not causing the pain and pleasure, it is just experiencing the pain and pleasure. So this is also bhokta in that sense. It is not completely like the consciousness outside, which is completely unaffected. So this small, particle of consciousness present in our body system is helplessly experiencing all that. Now, it is also passing through muhyaman and sochti. That is, it is also in a way having the attachment and the pain. Attachment and pain both are experienced by this consciousness. Now, normally we always heard people saying that consciousness is unaffected, it is unattached, it is beyond all the pain and pleasure. But it is also true that the part of consciousness which is part of the body system, which is embodied consciousness, actually passes through the attachment, passes through the pain, passes through the pleasure, and it is bhokta like the body is. So this reality has been explained in this Upanishad. It has not been explained anywhere else. It has come in some reference to in Bhagavad Gita, but here it is very clearly, very cleverly, very nicely explained. Now the next is Justam Yada Paschan Samis. That is Sevit. That is, भक्तों द्वारा नित्य सेवित, अपने से भिन्न परमात्मा, उसको अगर हम जान लें, if we can understand the second bird which is sitting on the same tree but only observing and not passing through the pain and pleasure, the experience of the body, if we can understand that, then we will actually overcome, or we will transcend the pain and pleasure of life, and we will become one with the Supreme. Now, let me give you an example to explain this. There is air in a tire. The tire has air. Now that air is passing through the experience of the tire. The tire is moving, the air is also moving. It is making the journey with the tire, thousands of kilometers. But as soon as the air comes out of the tire, it immediately merges with the vast expanse of air which is there in the space. Now that exactly is explained in this mantra. that that Jivatma which is trapped in the body is passing through all the experiences which body is going through. It is attached to the body. It is experiencing the pain and pleasure. But as soon as it is, it can realize that it is part of that vast expanse of consciousness pervading the entire universe, then it feels free. The embodied Jivatma becomes absolutely liberated. So that is what this experience. In case of the tire, it is not 100% perfect example. There the air has to come out of the tire to merge with the vast expanse of the air. In our case, the body consciousness doesn't have to come out of the body. Even within the body, if you are able to connect to that vast expanse of Paramatma outside in the entire universe, then even within the body, you will experience that liberation, that moksha, that feeling that you are not attached to anything, you are not passing through the pain and pleasure of anything. That experience comes only when this Jivatma is able to associate with the Paramatma or become unified with Paramatma, the second bird which is only observing. So, this is what has been said here. Masya Mahina Mimit Veet Shok. Veet Shok means going beyond the shock, transcending all kinds of pain and pleasure, pains, all kinds of pain. So then it becomes shock rahit, it becomes without any pain. So the two birds example is very practical example for people like us who all the time feel that the Upanishads are telling that consciousness or Atma is beyond pain and pleasure, beyond the action and performance, or bhokta and karta. But this Mundaka very clearly says that entrapped consciousness, that body connected consciousness, that passes through all the processes which we pass through. It experiences pain and pleasure, shock and moh, and it can liberate itself only when it realizes its real character and associates itself with the vast consciousness outside, which is the second word, which is only observing. Now, we were taking the example of a house. Now, for example, the four walls of the house are demolished. Then the outside and inside space becomes one. Now there you have to demolish the wall physically, but we can demolish these body walls through our knowledge. It can be demolished through the knowledge, through ज्ञान से demolish कर सकते हैं. And once we have that realization, then the outside world or the feelings which we get in our body-mind complex, consciousness, body-mind intellectual, what called BMI, body-mind intellect complex, that will not impact our inner consciousness. So this is one mantra. The two mantras are extremely practical for people like us who pass through these pains and pleasure on daily basis, and these two mantras explain that reality of our existence in life. Then in the third mantra, it clarifies it further. It says, Yada Pashya Pashyate Rukvarnam Kartar Ramesam Purusam Brahmayonim Tada Vidwan Punya Pape Viyus निरंजन परम सौम्य मुपेत यदा पश्य. Jab, when the person is able to see this, when the Jivatma is able to see the Paramatma, the Isam, the Iswar, when the Jivatma is able to see the Paramatma, the Iswar, which is the cause of all the causes in this universe, and who is Kartaram, who is the, mm, what you call, who who is the cause of this whole universe, who is the Racheta, who is the creator of all this universe. Rukma Varnam, and who is Divya Prakar, that is totally, what you call golden like shine. That is the nature of that Paramatma, golden like shine, all the time shining like gold. Purusam, that is the Paramatma, Pashyate, means Dekhna. So basically it is saying that once the Jivatma is able to see Paramatma in its full shine, in its complete role as the ruler of this universe, then all the pap and punya, all the results, bad or good, of all your actions, they completely disappear, they are destroyed. Niranjam param samya muput punya pape vidhuye. पुण्य और पाप दोनों के दोनों नष्ट हो जाते हैं. They are removed, that hurdle is removed from our path. So basically this mantra is telling us that once our inner consciousness, the Jivatma, is able to see the second bird sitting on the same body, but only observing, if that Jivatma is able to realize that at that moment, all the good and bad acts, all the pap and punya, they will disappear, and the person will become Niranjan. Niranjan means completely without any defect. Nirmal, without any mal, without any impurities, completely pure. Then Vidwanam. Vidwanam means he becomes jnani, he becomes, knowledgeable, person with total knowledge. Then Paramam. Paramam means Sarvottam. He becomes, Param basically means beyond which there is nothing. That is the ultimate knowledge. So Paramam means the highest quality of knowledge. And Samyam means Samta. That is, he appears like, completely beyond pain and pleasure. He becomes one. He becomes what we call Sam. He is not impacted by anything outside. And Upati means he is able to achieve that state, that state of Somyata, state of Samanta, state of Sambhav. Once he is able to achieve that, then he overcomes all the pain and pleasure. But that achievement is possible when the Jivatma is able to properly connect with Paramatma, which is also sitting on the same tree, but only observing and not passing through the pain and pleasure like bhokta of, which the Jivatma is subjected to. So this is what we have to understand. Now, to understand it, in a slightly different context, I like to take a few examples of real life. Like we have, take one of you, imagine yourself. You have many attachments in life. You are son, so you are attached to your father, your mother. You are also husband, so you are attached to your wife or your spouse. You are also father, so you are attached to your children, son, daughter. Then you are also a neighbor, so you are attached to your another neighbor. Then you are a manager in a company, so you are also attached to that company as manager and all the people working in that company. Then you are a Hindu, so you are also attached to the principles of Hinduism, the philosophy of Hinduism. Then you are Indian, so you are also attached to India. Then, for example, you are a member of a particular society or club, so you are also attached to that. So there are so many attachments to us. In the same form we exist, we have hundreds of attachments. You are a member of a society, you are attached there. You are a neighbor, you are attached there. You are a passenger in a bus, you are attached to the other passengers. You are, traveling together, for example, to a Tirth Yatra. You are connected with all those yatris during that course. So our attachment continues in this life constantly in one form or the other. There are multiple forms in which our attachment. This is also called mukhota. We wear so many mukhotas in life. All these mukhotas on the same body-mind complex. Same body-mind complex. The same body-mind complex is father and also the son and also the husband and also the neighbor and also a manager and also rich and also poor and also a driver and also a conductor. Everything. The same body-mind complex has so many mukhotas. So many mukhotas means so many attachments. So that attachment is constantly with us, and that attachment brings pain and pleasure. And since we have this consciousness which is completely integrated with our body, mind, intellect, that consciousness is also experiencing this pain and pleasure with us. Whatever journey we are performing, it is also performing the same journey. And that is the problem of what we call embodied consciousness. Now, this embodied consciousness is also connected with the infinite universal consciousness in the form of the Supreme, in the form of the Brahman, in the form of Paramatma. Because in that consciousness we are living. We are living in this whole big, vast universe in which we are connected. We are one single entity in this universe. And that consciousness is only an observer. It is not the bhokta like our inner consciousness. So in that sense, we have to realize this difference, that there is one inner consciousness which is constantly living with us. Then there is an outer consciousness which is also connected to our body constantly, which is all the time connected with the body, like the Akash outside the apartment and Akash inside the apartment, they are constantly connected. Same way, on the same tree of our body, the consciousness of Paramatma and the consciousness of Jivatma, they are constantly connected. The only realization we need to do is that the Jivatma is also part and particle of Paramatma. That's the realization we have to do. And once we realize that, then we are able to transcend and overcome all these mukhotas, all these attachments, which bring pain and pleasure to our life. Because these attachments bring pain and pleasure. If somebody's watch is stolen, I am not concerned. There are hundreds of watches are stolen every day. But if my watch is stolen, then I am, feeling painful. That is because of the attachment. So the moh and shock, they go together. Once you have moh means attachment, then you get the shock also, you get the, negative, the distress, the pain of it as well. So that, detachment will happen when our inner consciousness, Jivatma, is able to develop unity with the outer consciousness, the Paramatma. This is called Ekatva. It is also called Yog. Yuj Dhatu. It comes from Yuj Dhatu, that it becomes one with the Paramatma, or it becomes one with the existential consciousness, the universal consciousness. So it is called Ekatva, it is also called Yog, and that is what these three mantras of Mundaka are telling us, that don't be deluded by the consciousness which is sitting inside you, because it is integrated with our body, mind, intellect, and therefore it is part of what we call pain and pleasure journey which we are performing. But once you are able to see that this consciousness is actually connected with the outside infinite consciousness pervading this whole universe, then this thing will go away, because then you will have the feeling of unity of the entire universe. So the universe is one single entity. This is also this mantra wants to tell us, that all these different millions of different objects which we see in the universe, they are not really different. They are all interconnected. Like in our body, we have millions of different organs and cells and particles. Oh, they are all part of the same body structure, and they work together in unity. If one part of the body or one ang of the body is affected, the whole body is affected. Similarly, in this universe, every single entity is interconnected, and if one body is impacted, the others are also impacted. That is also true as we realize we are talking about climate change these days. We are experiencing excessive rain this year. Now people say it is all because of climate change. Now climate change basically means that one imbalance, that is the imbalance of what we call greenhouse gases, the the greenhouse gases which we are emitting in the atmosphere, they lead to the heating of the atmosphere, and because of that, the whole universe is impacted. The whole climate is impacted. The rivers are impacted. The rain cycle is impacted. The wind cycle is impacted. The oceans are impacted. Our life is impacted. The plant's life is impacted. Everything that exists in this universe is impacted because of that. So this is how the universe is interconnected. This is what these three mantras are telling us, that the whole universe is one single entity, like the body system, and they are interconnected. If one part of the universe is badly affected, the others will also be badly impacted, and this is how the whole operation happens. So now we should realize that because of this integration of consciousness in our body system, we feel this pain and pleasure, and if we are able to connect this consciousness, the Jivatma, with the universal consciousness, then all this pain and pleasure will go away. We will transcend, will go beyond that cycle. So this is what these mantras are telling us. And as we were discussing before, the session started. Before that, we were discussing, actually the fact is that everything in this universe is interconnected. Nothing is isolated. They are part and parcel. Every single entity is part and parcel of this, body system. Like we have many organs in the body. In the universal sense, it is now modern science calls it ecosystem. They have this ecosystem in which all the entities are interacting and connecting with each other. So similarly, that ecosystem was reflected by our sages thousands of years back in time. And that is what these three mantras are telling us, that become one with the Supreme, become one with the existence, and then you will feel unity, and then you will overcome all the moh and shock. Thank you.